Hello YouTubers, it's Arya here again. Thank you guys for watching this video. I quickly wanted to touch on my experience going to the ER because I have been to the ER about 5 times this year, and it's a little bit it can be a little bit scary if you're not used to going to the ER. So I'm going to talk about a couple of tips, 5 top tips for going to the ER. I've been to the ER with family, I've been to the ER by myself for different reasons. This year it has been for my injury. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. The last visit to the ER that I had was actually yesterday, and last night was not a good night. I was up until about 2. I was crying. I was depressed and anxious because of the pain. So this morning when I woke up, I had yesterday morning when I woke up, I had super swollen eyelids, and here the underneath of my eyes were super swollen too. So I looked like a puffer fish because I was so swollen because of all the crying. I cried for hours. I barely drank any water. It was, very, very bad. My lips were dehydrated. Yesterday when I went to the ER, they were really dry. I was pale. It was just not good. So when I went to the ER, first off, I was looking for my ID. I couldn't find my ID. I don't know where I left it. I have a feeling it's in another little purse. I have to find that purse. But basically, I was going all over everywhere trying to look for my freaking ID, and I was worried, and oh my god, it was just so bad. So I couldn't find my ID. I found an expired ID and an eco pass that had my picture on it. So from what I know, they can't turn you away, right? So they have to see everyone. So I took my expired ID. I went there. I got there, they pass you through security, they tell you to empty your pockets, put them in the bins, and then security checks everything and asks you if you're there to see someone or if you're there for yourself. So I told them I was there for myself. So when I went up to registration, the lady, she was pretty nice to me. I told her that I couldn't find my ID. I didn't know where it was, but that I found an expired ID, so I gave her that. She took it. She said it was completely fine. They just needed something to prove my identity, and that was me. And I told them that that was me, because those are like my credit cards and stuff and everything. I had credit cards. But anyways, if you go to the ER and you don't have your ID, they cannot turn you away. They'll have to see you anyways. For any reason, if you go to the ER, they cannot turn you away due to EMTALA. So I kind of forgot what EMTALA means, but it's an act that was passed. That means if you are in an emergency situation and you present to the ER, they have to treat you. They cannot turn you away. EMTALA, maybe emergency medical treatment, something, I don't know. Oh wait, actually I have a computer here. I could just look it up. EMTALA Act. I'll tell you what EMTALA is. Okay, the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act is a federal law that requires anyone coming to an emergency department to be stabilized and treated regardless of their insurance status. Ability to pay is mandated to be seen, pretty much, by law. So anyways, so yeah, I showed up, didn't have my ID. The ER was, there was nobody in the waiting room when I went in. It was about 12-ish. Yeah, it was a little bit 12:30-ish when I showed up. There was nobody in the waiting room. So the nurse checked my vitals, and then they triaged me. I was telling the nurse everything that was going on. I was having a lot of trouble just thinking straight. I was overwhelmed. I was sad. I wasn't really making eye contact with the nurse or the provider. I was trying to process everything. Everything was more slow motion, and that really hasn't happened to me before. But I think I was just so distraught. So anyways, I told her my symptoms, how I was feeling. She wrote them down. The doctor, he came and talked to me too, and he tried to feel for a pulse. He touched my back, and asked me if I felt pain. He asked me what things I've tried, and then he said he would, he would help me try to get stabilized pain. And yeah, I was crying through it too. I had brought my papers from workers' comp, because CRPS, you sometimes have to prove that you have something. In the ER, the first time I did have to prove to them, because they didn't have any of that. But since being at the ER 2 times prior for the same thing, I think they had it in their systems. And I actually had gone to my primary care doctor the day before I presented to the ER, so they looked at that visit and saw things that me and my provider had talked about. They asked me, when was the last time that you talked to your doctor for the pain? And I told them I just saw them about a week ago, and they tried me on Nucynta, and I was doing that, and it's not helping. Nothing is helping. So so basically, I would just say, if you're in that situation where you're having to tell a doctor how you're feeling, definitely take note of at least 3 main symptoms that you're feeling, and take your time answering these questions, because it can affect the way that you receive the treatment. And I was crying, I was distressed. They took me back to where they fast track you, so they put you in a room. It's basically like the more minor treatments that are needed, where they can get you through faster. So they put me in that room. The nurse came in, started an IV for me. I asked her to put it in my hand, because it went in here, and that's like the tape residue. But I asked her to put it in my hand instead of my arm, and she did. And then I was there for about 15 minutes, and I changed into a gown. I left my pants on but took everything up top off, and I pretty much just cried and wailed. I was by myself. I felt awful. And after 15-20 minutes, they came, and on the stretcher they wheeled me to a room where they have you admitted for like the sick people. So I was there. I guess they drew my blood, but I don't remember them drawing my blood. And they started me on fluids. They gave me Benadryl through the IV and Naldol, because my blood pressure was a little bit high, my heart rate was a little bit high, my pulse was about 105, my blood pressure was 126 over 67, around there. And so yeah, they did that, and I was left there. They brought me water to take the gabapentin, and then I was left there pretty much. And basically during this time, there's a lot of waiting in the ER. I was getting anxious. Once the medicine started to go in, I really felt dizzy, and I was getting anxious. I wanted to leave. I was thinking about taking out my IV. I was just getting super paranoid about being there. I wanted to leave. I didn't know why. I was uncomfortable. And then the registrar will see you for payment, like ask you about your insurance, who they need to bill, everything. One thing that I didn't take that I should have was my workers' comp information. I didn't take that information, but I really should have, because she did ask me for it. Thankfully, I had been to the ER before, so she was able to pull it up, I'm assuming. And after that, I waited, and the doctor came in. So the doctor's supposed to come in and see you before you're discharged. and he prescribed gabapentin. He said he was only going to do it for 3 days, but then he changed it to a full week because of the holidays, and he was right because offices were closed. And just by the way, usually if you do have like a clinic that you go to, they will have an on-call physician. I did not know this. I didn't think my doctor would have an on-call physician because they've never told me that, but usually they will. And this kind of turned out to be a video about my experience going to the ER, so I'm sorry about that. But anyways, if you do have like a diagnosis that isn't clear, or there might be questions, definitely bring your paperwork that does list your diagnosis and any medications that you are taking. Sometimes your presentation will speak for you. When I came in there, I was trying to speak, but it was really hard to concentrate and focus. I was a wreck, and I was getting paranoid. I was crying throughout, and once my pain started getting better, it was like in about half an hour or an hour, I'm not sure, I noticed the difference, and I was fine, and I didn't feel any pain. I told them I didn't feel any pain, and the nurse, she said that I looked better. The doctor came in and said that, you know, the Naldol and the gabapentin probably helped. So I was happy. They discharged me. From the time I saw the doctor, it took probably half an hour to get everything discharged, and it was fine. I was better. I was happy. I was good. But it can be stressful. I do want to recommend, if you are highly distressed, bring a family member or a friend to be with you, because you are alone. I felt really alone this time going to the ER. Before, I haven't felt so alone before, but this time I went to the ER, I felt alone, and I was getting anxious, and I was scared. I felt like it did give me time to kind of just cry and let it all out, but I was just a mess. And when I did get pain relief, I was completely better. I was happy, and now I'm here today, and I took gabapentin, and it's a little bit wonky, but I have, you know, everything from the ER. Definitely keep those paperworks, and next time you go to the doctor, present to them, you know, what happened and your paperwork. In a way, you know, at this point, I really feel like my doctors should have been doing more for me, because I hate going to the ER. It's like you waste 3 or more hours. If there would have been a room full of, you know, people in the waiting room, maybe I would have had to wait even longer. And well, it's Thanksgiving, and you know, I did want to be with my family, and I started missing my family too, because I was alone and I was cold too. It was just uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortable experience. Before this, I went for pain to the same ER, and I brought my paperwork. I was crying. I was fast-tracked. I was out in about an hour and a half. Or maybe 2 hours. Most of the waiting was in the waiting room, and they sent hydrocodone, and I took that at home, and that was fine. That was fast. And then the time before that, I had my sister and my mom come with me, and they came a little bit later, but I was fast-tracked too, and this was before I was even diagnosed. And the lady, the physician assistant, she was trying to reassure me that it's just a nerve injury, I'm sure it'll heal. They gave me gabapentin, sent me on my way. I didn't feel better. I didn't think it was right. I felt like they should have done more for me, but like, you know, I wasn't going to fight it. But at that time, they pretty much just pushed me out. But I would say, if you do get a doctor that isn't really taking your pain seriously, refuse to leave the ER. Now, I know that sounds bold, but tell them, you know what, my pain isn't better, and I've had this pain. I know how bad it gets. I need to stay here until like an hour more, until I feel fine, because I will come back here if, you know, if this isn't resolved, you know, because you don't want to be in pain, and they can't just scoot you out. They need to they need to be sure that things are happening. So with this doctor, this last doctor that I saw, he gave me his card and he told me he would be available until like 9 p.m. at another hospital. So he gave me his card, I guess, in case I had any questions. That's never happened to me before, so I felt like really heard and validated. And he told me he can't even imagine what it feels like to be going through this like all the time. So that really made my experience a little bit better. But like throughout it all, I was just so panicked. And sometimes your body, your ability to say things will say it more clearly than what you are actually trying to say. I definitely would have told, if the doctor would have fast-tracked me this time, I definitely would have told him, you know what, I cannot go home with pain. Like, I need this handled. I cannot just take something and be in pain in the ER. I need to wait. I need to be observed, but I cannot go home, because if it gets worse, you know, everything. And the other thing I would want to point out is that my doctors that I've been going to, they're part of an umbrella organization, a healthcare organization, so all of them have access to the records because they're all in network with that umbrella organization. So I think that's helped trying to figure out where I'm at with things, and you know, that they can look at the pain and see how things are. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I know it was a long video, but I hope it will be helpful in some way, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.